Hey, this is Steve Stine from guitarzoom, and I've had a lot of questions about how to take your pentatonic and make it sound a little more creative, make it sound a little less like you're just playing a scale up and down. And so I thought what we would do today is we would talk a little bit about a couple of notes that you can add into your pentatonic to make it a bit more colorful and a bit more bluesy sounding. So what we're going to be doing here is just taking our standard A minor pentatonic right here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to edit this slightly and give you a couple of different ideas to work with if you've never done this before. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at the chord and we're going to think about the chord progression just a little bit. Generally, if we're thinking about blues or rock and roll, oftentimes the chords that we're playing are actually based off major chords. Not metal and, that sort of thing, but just if we think about an A major chord right here, okay? We're playing 5, 7, 7, 6, 5, 5. And it's the 6th fret of the 3rd string here that's making that chord sound major. Okay? I'm not going to get into a bunch of theory. Just understand that that note is what's making it sound major or happy. And if I take that 6 and become a 5, then it begins to sound like minor or a bit darker or sadder sounding. Now, when we play over stuff like blues or a lot of AC/DC style songs, things like that, that sort of raw rock and roll thing, oftentimes we're playing over a major chord progression, but we're playing a minor pentatonic. And if we think about that minor pentatonic, we're playing the 5 right there in our pentatonic. But we're playing over a chord that's using this 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to add that 6, or that major third is the technical term for it. We're going to add that into our soloing. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take this minor pentatonic scale, and we're going to add that in. Now I'm going to be doing this by doing a hammer-on from the 5 to the 6, or the minor third to the major third. And I always refer to this as the minor-major twist. You can call it whatever you want, but... So what's happening now is, if I think about it, if I was taking my pentatonic and playing, I would add that in. Now you can pick them, you can hammer them, whatever works for you. I tend to do this as a hammer-on, but the most important thing here isn't to try and do exactly what I'm doing, but it's to figure out what works and sounds best for your playing, okay? So as I'm doing this, you'll notice I'm not playing the 7 right afterwards, where normally I would play 5 and 7 when I play pentatonic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play that 5, 6, and I'm going to skip that 7, which means that after I play the 5 to the 6, I'm either going to go toward the floor and continue on, or I'm going to go toward the ceiling and continue on. So watch this. If I play like this, now right there you saw me play the 7 to the 5 like I normally would in pentatonic. And then I'm going to add that hammer on from the 5 to the 6 afterwards. And then I might go back to my root note here, which is A. And I could add in that way. Okay, now it's not super exciting yet, but it's something new that you could explore if you've never done this before. Now let's say I was playing toward the floor, or raising in pitch, right? If we think about our scale toward the floor, I always refer to it as toward the floor, toward the ceiling to make things easy here. So if I'm playing toward the floor, right there, what I would do is I would skip the 7 and just continue on. So as I'm moving toward the floor, I'm playing 5, 6, and then I'm just heading to the next string. And when I come back, I play the 7, 5, and then play the 6 in the middle. Now, there's no wrong or right way to do these things. It's just you have to understand that when it comes to soloing or playing guitar, anything with single notes, you're trying to create an environment or a sound, right? And one way to do that is to think about not only the notes that you're playing, but the way that you're playing them, the phrasing that you're giving them. So if I take all 3 of these notes and just play them together, I can come up with some really great stuff, hopefully, but it's going to sound less like blues than if I broke them apart. So if I did something like this, I might still be able to come up with something really great with that. But if I do this, it's already going to have a little bit more of that blues sound to it. So it's something really fun for you to explore. Now, what I want you to realize here is I'm starting with, if we wanted to visualize this, if I think about my root, or my A right here on the 7th fret of the 4th string, all I'm doing is I'm going from that note to the next string, the next note. So I'm going 1, 2, and then I'm doing my hammer on. And this is really nice to know, because if you're on an A down here, you can do the same thing down here. Or up here, here's an A. Okay, so you might make up something where you maybe move from this, we'll call this the 5th position, into the 1st position here. And don't worry about that, but... So notice I skip it right there. And then play it right there. So there's no right or wrong time to play this note. It's just something new that you can add in that sounds a little more colorful, a little bit different if you haven't done it before. So I'll usually play my licks, you know, whatever it is I'm going to be doing, and I can throw that in. Now what's really neat about this is, if we think about it, when I go like this, and I do that little hammer on right there, I can go toward the floor, as I said, and continue on, or I could go toward the ceiling like this, and continue on. But another thing that's really nice is just actually ending on that note. Because if it was over the sound of A, it's going to sound really nice over that A chord. Okay? So I might actually just land on that note and emphasize that. And then move on with whatever I want. So it's a really nice note to use. You can use it in any position across the guitar as long as you know where your A is. And again, I'm starting with my 3rd finger. You know, up here is really nice because this is what we often refer to as our B.B. King box up here. So I've got my A right here, and I can do all my... And there it is right there. And it sounds kind of cool. Another one that I want you to look at, if you've never done before, is what we refer to as the blue note, or the blues note. And what it is now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with my 1st finger on the root. So now we're going to look at the A right here. And if I played pentatonic, I go 1, 2, 3, and it's the next note. Which, if you know anything about your theory, we refer to that as the flatted 5th. So if we were playing a power chord, we're taking that 5th and we're just lowering it right there. Now, the note itself isn't necessarily a real nice sounding note over the A, but it makes for a really great passing note where we're going to play it in conjunction with other things. So this one, as opposed to the other one, this one really does sound nice being used in between these notes. Okay, and you could do the same thing up here on this A. Or this A. So that's a really nice note to add in. Now, we've looked at the minor-major twist by starting with our 3rd finger on the root, wherever that root is going to be. And then we looked at adding this blues note or blue note by starting with our 1st finger on the root. And notice how it puts us in kind of 2 different positions like that. Well, let's also look at, let's go back to the original thing we were doing, which was the minor-major thing. And now, let's go like this. So here it was. Well, that blues note is right there. So if I think about it from my 3rd finger, I have 1, 2, 3. So depending on what direction you're coming from here, that blues note is right there as well. So you could use it together. Now think about this. You have 5 and 7 that you originally started with. You have the 6 that we just added in from that minor major. And now you've got this 8 over here that is the blue or blues note. But if I play them all in conjunction with each other at the same time, it's not that it might not be really cool. You might be able to come up with some really amazing things, and I would encourage you to explore that. But if you were using it from a bluesy context, it might be really nice to use the 5, 7, and 8 together, and then do the 5, 6 as the turnaround like you normally do. So when you're doing something like this, you just start learning how to kind of add that in to add a little flavor. Now, what I like to do sometimes as well, and you'll see a lot of players do this, is if I was playing in my scale and I want to go up, I might use my pinky right there, and make some licks like that. But what's kind of fun to do as well is I might get to that 7 and want to play that 8 right there, that blue note, but I do it by sliding up to it. Then I could slide back, whatever. So you can make all kinds of cool stuff. Just whatever's comfortable for you, whatever you enjoy. But it's a couple things to think about a little bit. Don't try and rush through it. If these are new for you, take your time and worry less about getting through the lesson and worry more about trying to make some music with what you're actually learning. Because you might only work on one of those notes. You might only like one of those things or a certain position or something, and that's just fine. It isn't about me and it isn't about what other people say. It's about you trying to figure out what's going to work best for you in your practice. So practice hard, stay positive, and hopefully that helps you a little bit.